Welcome to Board Game Homies, where a group of friends play, review, and share about all things board games. Sitting around the table today are
Reed,
Becky,
Gillian,
and I'm Angela. Today we have first, second, and third impressions of all things Clank. Clank the deck-building game, Clank Catacombs, Clank in Space, as well as expansions. Clank! AKA, if you ditch your friends in a dungeon to die, do you have to return the other half of your BFF heart necklace? But first, what's bringing us joy?
do you guys know the my favorite animal trend that's happening on the internet right now?
No.
Is it about fat little baby animals like Moodang and Pesto?
Moodang is so cute.
No, it's more like my favorite animal is me when I haven't had a Dr. Pepper all day, and then or like my favorite animal is me when I get my first paycheck of the month, and then they just like go wild. I don't know.
What?
Okay, so you guys haven't heard
No,
this.
it's cute. I'm following.
Okay, you're following. Great. Well,
I don't get it.
I'll show you some videos after this episode.
I mean, I get it. I just don't
Well, where I'm
understand.
going with this is that what's bringing me joy is me. I am my favorite animal when I put my mind to making a PowerPoint presentation. So, for this podcast episode, because we haven't all played all of the games at the same time or together, or at all. And so I put together a Canva presentation about the different Clanks so everybody would be on the same page. And that brought me so much joy. I shared with you all, but I was downstairs working on this PowerPoint when Gillian was upstairs reorganizing our board games. And I was just like cackling to myself, like, they're just wait till they see this.
And at first, Becky, I walked in the door with bagel sandwiches, and Becky was like, I have a surprise. And I was like, what is it? I was like, I can't tell you. And then she forced us to sit down, and we were like, what is going to come on the TV? And it was delightful. I hope we can post all of them on Instagram if you want to see just how joyful Becky's presentation was, and or you want to use it with your friends and family. I feel like that would be very wonderful.
So it's hilarious about Becky bringing herself joy. Is that when I was picking out my joy game, I was like, playing games with Becky brings me joy. And so I thought about that, but I didn't do that. But I am just telling you, I could have. I wanted to. You bring me joy.
Angela and I, we only bring misery, apparently.
Death and destruction.
Yeah, but Becky's the only person that can, like, absolutely stab you in a game. And then you're like, oh, Becky's so nice. Like, how is she the same person that can go first in Clank and in Everdell? Like, the sneakiest and the most humble? That's like Becky to a T.
It's true. It's true. I'm losing some humble points here.
You'll make it up before the next time you play Everdell, which is maybe never.
Next year.
The game that is bringing me joy, as well as just Becky as a human being, it might actually be a surprise because it just entered our communal board game collection, and that's the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth 7, based off of the Seven Wonders Duel game that came into the collection because of Gillian. I wonder if maybe that was also Gillian's joy game. Gillian, was it your joy game?
Yes, it's also my joy game.
I mean,
How dare you
bought it,
steal it?
so
I know. I bought it on Thursday, and you just come and snipe my favorite game, or my joy game.
Gillian, I'll turn it over to you, but this is a game that neither of us have played, but obviously we didn't tell each other our joy games, or we would have just laughed really hard. Why are you excited about this game that you have bought?
Lord of the Rings, Seven Wonders Duel. Say no more.
I'll say more then. Okay. You said that you had gotten this game, and at first I was like, that's great, it's just a reskin, why would it matter? And then thinking about it, and as a duel game, one, I've promised myself I won't buy games because I think my girlfriend will play them. But she is the biggest Lord of the Rings nerd.
Really?
Okay, wait,
I didn't
what?
know that.
Guys.
Wait, are we talking about the same person?
Ashton watches the trilogy like 9,000 times. Like in second grade, she did a book report on the Lord of the Rings. She is hardcore. And you would never guess that from her because she's like a fashionista. She's into like slow fashion. She's wonderful. She's amazing. She's a goddess. And she freaking loves Lord of the
But
Rings.
she also has very strong boundaries about nerddom, and I feel like I don't even know where those boundaries lie now.
Oh my God, she cosplayed as Doctor Who one year. She is a giant nerd, but here's the thing. I think if this was a Lord of the Rings skinned game, she may have even more interest to play it. And so I'm like, possibly a great game? Possibly my girlfriend will play it with me? Double win.
May I introduce you to War of the Ring?
I don't think she wants to go that deep.
Oh, there's also the smaller one, though. What is that one
Oh, there's
called?
Lord of the Rings Confrontation, which we have, which is basically Stratego.
I need you guys to know that Gillian pointed to the area where the rejected games go that are about to move down to the sale rack. As he said, can I interest you in this cruddy board game?
No, not interest in selling it to you because I want to keep that game. Becky's the one that wants to get rid of it, but she won't let me get rid of Isle Cats, so we're not getting rid of Lord of the Rings Confrontation.
Cats is off the table.
Yeah, thank you, Reed.
Yeah, so is Lord of the Rings
Also,
Confrontation.
You go back and forth on that game. I was waiting for my moment to be like, Angela, do you want to buy a game? Just like Wingspan. But Gillian and I have gone back and forth about that game. We haven't played it since 2018.
It's because you never play it with me.
And obviously, the thing that brings you joy is playing games with your partner. Reed, what are you looking forward to?
Talking to Ashton about Lord of the Rings, but not really because I don't think I could carry a conversation about it. Oh, wow.
Hobbits, huh?
Yeah. Well, my joy game is a game that Gillian told me about when we were discussing just playing with a deck of cards, and that is Regicide, which Gillian has a version that apparently is a little bit fancier than a deck of cards, but you can play it with a regular deck. And you have the royals pulled out and sorted by the different faces, so like Jack, Queen, King. And then Jacks take 20 points to defeat. Queens take 30 maybe. And then Kings take 40. You play a number of cards to reduce the attack and the health value. And you discard equivalent to the damage that you take. It sounds really complicated to do it. And it took me a few times to understand what I was doing. I have not won this game. I think it's very, very hard. We played a 2-player game online, but I am really excited to play more.
We should play it in person sometime. It's been ages since I've actually played it. I ended up buying it's a deck of cards just with the art that you see on the Board Game Arena version. And Becky and I played it. We lost horribly, and then we never picked it up. I still really like it. I just haven't played it in person in a long time.
That's one that would be awesome to just know the rules and be able to be like, oh, I have a deck of cards in my purse. Like, let's play it. Rita and I went to a restaurant to pick up food and we were waiting. And that would have been so great if one of us, one, had a deck of cards, but two, knew how to play it. Instead, we tried to play the game with the dots and the lines where you're making the boxes and putting your initial in it. And we didn't know what we were doing.
Were you not a middle school female identifying human? Because I feel like that's what we did in middle school.
Yeah, so we just drew a bunch of lines, no boxes, and we got our food and then left.
That explains why you like Railroad Ink.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm so glad that we get to talk about Railroad.
I'm so glad you brought this up, Kelly.
I'm demonstrating here.
It does kind of look like Railroad Ink.
This is your fault. But you're not wrong. It's for the railroad curious. Clank, the deck-building game, the original of the Clank series, is a 2016 release and plays 2 to 4 players. It's published by Direwolf Digital. It's designed by Paul Denon, and the art is by Ralph Beisner, Paul Ramos, and Nate Storm. Clank in Space is a 2017 release by the same team and plays 2 to 4 players. Clank Catacombs is released in 2022, plays 2 to 4 players, is also published by Direwolf Digital, and is designed by Paul Denon, Clay Brooks, Anita Burrell, Nate Storm, and Dan Taylor, the same team who came up with the Layers and Lost Chambers expansion that came out in 2024. Each of the 3 larger base games, Clank the Deck Building Game, Clank Catacombs, and Clank in Space, all retail for $60. In Clank, a group of thieves sneak into an angry dragon's mountain lair to steal precious artifacts and loot. But you have to be quick and you have to be quiet because every step you make could cause you to make clank, a sound that draws the attention of the angry dragon, who may notice that you're stealing all of their stuff. At its heart, Clank is a deck-building game. Each player has their own deck, and you build yours up as part of the game. You play your turns with 5 cards in hand, and then you'll play them in any order, and you have to play all of them. Most cards will generate some kind of resources. Skill, which you can use to acquire more cards to add to your deck. Swords, which are used to fight the monsters that infest the dungeon. And boots, which are used to move around the board. Each time you acquire a new card, you put it face up in your discard pile. Whenever you need to draw a card and you find your deck empty, you shuffle it up, and then you draw a new set of cards. With each shuffle, your newest cards become part of a bigger and bigger deck. Each player starts with the same starting hand, but they'll acquire different cards on their turns depending on how much skill that they can use. During the game, you have 2 basic goals. Retrieve an artifact token and escape the dragon by returning to the place you started, and accumulate enough points with your artifact and other loot to beat out your opponents. If you don't make it back to the safe zone or out of the lair, you die, scoring absolutely 0 points. Your friends, your fellow thieves, have ditched you to live another day. And that's how you play Clank. In Clank Catacombs, the mechanics are very similar, except that each part of the board is actually a tile that you draw in place, changing the layup of the map. In Clank in Space, the mechanics are very similar, except it's reskinned into a space station with space-themed jokes and humor. Guys, what do you think of Clank, Clank Catacombs, Clank in Space? All things Clank!
I just want to make a correction here in that, Angela, we have not played Clank Acquisitions Incorporated, despite your opener to this episode. It's not All Things Clank, because we're missing the Legacy game.
It's All Things Clank Part 2, where we play Acquisitions Incorporated and hate each other even more.
Wow,
Yay!
are you saying we hate each other right now?
Well,
No, it's odd that we can change and just hate Becky after playing Clank with her.
yeah. If you can't tell already, this game is about one of your friends being a jerk.
Becky.
And then that jerk friend getting out of the dungeon and leaving you to die, and then gleefully pulling tokens out of a bag to watch you get murdered.
Yeah, Becky, that changed tune real quick from you being everybody's joy to being the villain of this story.
Well, it's a good thing I am such a joy sometimes.
Well, Angela and I played this game. We played the original Clank with you last night, and I didn't even know what was happening because I was like, oh, it's my second turn. Let me just go here. And Angela's like, Becky's making a run for it. And you just took an artifact and just left us behind.
Yeah, it's interesting in Clank and Clank in Space, the board has the artifacts already on there, whereas Clank Catacombs, you discover them randomly. And so if you just go in just like a little bit, there's the small point artifacts, so like maybe a 5 or a 15. And then if you go deeper into the dungeon, it's like 25 or 30 points. So, but you're gambling, right? And pushing your luck to get more points. And I was like, well, what if I just take this 15 and get the heck out of here? Like, I could win. And I just want to throw it out there. Reed, you almost didn't make it out of the top for that extra 20 points. And if you hadn't gotten those 20 points, I would have won.
Yeah, I love that Becky's strategy of screwing us over actually didn't help her win the game. But it is a viable strategy to take the first thing and run. And I didn't realize that Becky was starting to leave until I think she had gotten a turn or two into that. And I was like, oh my God, I think she's making a break for it. And so I like that strategy. This game is really, really, I don't know, fun and joyful, as can joy be the theme of this podcast, is it's light-hearted but silly and fun, and you're just collecting cards and your friends kind of screw you over. And I liked that about this game.
Though it's interesting, in all of the plays of various Clanks the four of us have had together, no one has been left behind to the point of not being able to score points. I do think the tension of having to get to a certain part of the map or exit entirely is important. However, the first game of Clank Gillian and I ever played was Clank in Space, and both of us passed out in the unsafe zone, so we didn't get to score points at all. And it was just like, it was a bummer. It wasn't even like an exciting, like, we almost made it. It was just like, oh, okay, well, we'll wait for you guys to count up your points.
Well, how do you even put that in the stats app? 0-0?
Zeros.
Yeah,
on the
probably.
stats app.
So I haven't actually played the original Clank and missed out on the play you guys had last night, but I did play Clank in Space, as Becky said, and I remember not particularly liking the game all that much. The deck building was fun, and in Clank in Space, I did love all the odes to, cultural references to like Alien and Doctor Who and stuff like that are on the cards, and I really enjoyed that aspect. But the static map is something that bothers me, and I expected that Clank, the deck building game, the original, would be much the same because it's a static map. However, when I played Clank Catacombs recently with you all, I much preferred that over Clank in Space because of the dynamic map, and you build it as you go, and there are things that can happen, like tiles can rotate 180 degrees, which can screw Reed over, or others. And I just enjoyed the map building aspect of it, and you never know what you're going to get because it made it so that you were actually exploring the dungeon. Like you were diving into this dragon's dungeon or lair and exploring it as you went. You didn't know what you were going to encounter as you progressed along different routes. And so I really enjoyed that. So much to the point that I wasn't really enthused about trying the original, like because of the static map component. But just having played Clank in Space and Clank in Catacombs and Clank Catacombs, I much preferred the latter, just for that dungeon building aspect.
Yeah, our joke last night had been that Gillian was willing to do anything to get out of playing original Clank, that he didn't come to the game night. But I had bought Clank Catacombs off the used shelf at over 50% off, even though what I really had wanted was Catacombs, but it just had been out of stock for a while at our board game shop. And so I didn't mind playing it, and we played Catacombs first, which I think sets you up for a very different experience. But I wanted to play the original. And one of the things that I did note, because we had talked about, like, hey, is the game going to be too static, is I had a slower start than Becky and Reed, and you kind of have a very limited start number of things where you can go in the base game, because you go into this cavern that means that you get stuck for a minute, and then your turn comes back around again and you can go. But because I had gotten there last in the original board game, you have these items that are limited. So by the time I got to all of the rooms, everybody had been through them. And so I didn't get any of the extra resources that Becky and Reed had gotten, which meant that I had to delve deeper into the dungeon in order to try to collect points. So my game looked different. But for that first, 15% of the game, we had to kind of follow each other, or you could take a drastically different path that I don't think benefited you as much, which took you right to the market area. And so I could see very much how you get very static with that, or how maybe you don't want to, like, every play feels a little bit similar because everyone's running to do the first things the same. Whereas Clank Catacombs really had that. Everything is different. The plays feel so much different. The first tile coming out feels a little bit different.
So one thing that I did like about Clank in Space and Clank Catacombs are the portals, and that you could basically teleport from one spot to another, and it can bring you in a vastly different space on the map. And so that, I guess, in Clank in Space could help kind of mitigate that staticness in a way. And there's also like a conveyor belt or an escalator or what have you that allows you to transport from one side of the map to the other. But it's still a static map overall, just with these kind of predefined spaces that you can go that will transport you from one space to another. But yeah, the staticness of the map was a little jarring for me. And after playing Catacombs, I feel like I have no desire to revisit either Clank or Clank in Space for that reason.
I think it's cool that I've played all three because I can definitely see the improvements that were made in between the games. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why this is that way. Like, that totally makes sense that now the artifacts refresh whenever, or not artifacts, the small treasures, like, refresh when you get in there. Secrets. Whatever they're called. The things Angela didn't get any of. That was mean. I'm sorry. And so I enjoy that aspect of having played all three, that it's just like, wow, yeah, you made a better game every time. And I feel the same way. I feel like I saw everything that Clank and Clank in Space have to offer. And Catacombs has so much of the original game in them that that's the game that I would choose every single time. I think Clank is meant to be a fun game, and like having the tiles, and there's a market, basically, like not the market in the game, but a card market that you use your skills to add cards to your deck. And there are things that do things when things that do things. The cards that have arrive actions. So when you reveal the card at the end of your turn, then like there's this wall that will spin each tile someone is on 180 degrees, which like changes the game. Or like an enemy comes out and everybody has to put Clank in the Clank space or something happens. And so it feels very dynamic, and with having those tiles as the board and you're making it new every time, it's like a dynamic, fun game, and I really like that.
Seeing the box, and I know that an exclamation point has an element of whimsy, but I was not prepared for this dark dungeony game to be as joyful and whimsical as it was. And it is a really fun kind of push your luck game that this is going to be a weird comparison, but maybe just because my tile was the one that was spun around, I was like, oh, it's like Camel Up. You don't know which direction you're going. You can just be taken out when you think that you're doing great. So there's your comparison.
I appreciate that your tile spun around as you were racing back to get out, because Becky and Gillian had made it out and you and I were like desperately trying to flee. And you would say, oh, Becky and Gillian made it out. What were they doing on their off turns? What I appreciate is the game drastically speeds up the minute somebody gets out. In the games that I've played, is you're now pulling this dragon bag that has cubes, all of your Clank cubes for every player, plus a number of dragon cubes. If the dragon cube comes out, nothing happens. If your cube comes out, you take damage, and you only have so much damage that you can take, and you can heal, but the spaces to heal are so much fewer than how much Clank comes out. And so Becky or Gillian leaving now meant we're drawing so much more Clank out of the bag rapidly. In the base game, there is an ending that's like, hey, after like 4 turns of Becky being out, you're gone. But I've never actually made it out to pull cubes. And so I don't know what that's like to be like, you're pulling, being like, haha, I hope I kill you. I hope I kill you. Because it drastically improves how you win. And that's so much fun. And the things that come out make the game, when it's not your turn, even though somebody is doing some of these actions, you can't wait for that card row to like refresh, because you're like, oh, are we gonna suck? Is the dragon gonna get us? And so I agree. That's such a level of whimsy for a game.
One thing I did appreciate about the game, and honestly, it's been a while since I played Clank in Space, so I don't know how similar it was in this capacity, but when we played Clank Catacombs, I thought it was really interesting how we all built our decks vastly differently. Like, I focused on movement, and I was just cruising through the dungeon, getting things, whereas you all did something completely different. Like, I think Angela struggled to move, but you had a lot of skill that you could use to buy cards. And so it was just it was interesting to see how we all adapted and changed how we approached our deck building component. And then to get to the start of the game, and speaking back to Angela's point about the base game Clank, that in Catacombs it was interesting because you all have to go into that single ice cavern and you're all frozen there for a minute, but then you can scatter into any of 3 different directions, and I felt like we did that. All of us went a different direction. I think maybe Angela and I might have gone in the same direction, but then Becky and Reed went onto either side of the tile in different directions, and so it did create that more like disparate experience where we were going in different directions, exploring different pieces of the dungeon.
It was a really quick play, too. Not just because Becky was trying to race out of there, but there's a bit of setup, but it was so fun that I could see playing it multiple times in the same evening.
And I think this game really will span across like levels of gamer interest too. Like, I think you could play this game with almost anyone. Like somebody who is more a beginner. I think like having some tools of like the deck building would be helpful for this game. Maybe not necessarily being this is the first game that they're being exposed to that. But also the medium to light players, and also like the crunchy to funsies players who crunchy gamers will play fun games. That one wasn't as good as Crunchy Curious, but I tried.
Crunchy competent.
Crunchy competent.
Also, I think the theme in general is a lot more approachable and enticing, I think, for people that aren't normally into kind of more complex games. It's just fun knowing there's this big dragon meeple that you're trying to avoid that marches along this track as you draw its attention. And I think that adds an element of, appeal to people that don't normally get into these types of games.
Yeah, I think that there's a level that I would play this game with folks who maybe were interested. This could be a game that you're like, okay, this is because it's fairly simple around boots, knives, or skill, or swords and skill, is that you get things, you buy things, you get things, you buy things, and you race around a track. So if somebody is fairly competent around gaming, I think it's a really good fit for a lot of different folks. I wonder if, like, you know, in a year or two, maybe Burks, if not now, because there is some reading on the cards. Like, I think one of the downsides for the game for me is that the card rows are really important to see what comes out. But because you have to place the card row in one section, and because the map is in the middle for everyone, it's hard to see what the cards say. So I was constantly leaning over Reed, being like, I'm sorry, Reed. And in our first gameplay, Becky was very kind and said, hey, this card just came out. I think you want it. Because I can't sit there and, like, didn't see what every card was coming out. And so Becky pointed out a card for me. And I was like, that is great. I will buy that. Thank you. So that is one of the harder parts, is the card row. And across, I probably would assume in space, out of all the games, it's just hard to see the row. And so trying to be intentional about reading. So I weirdly think that the amount of reading is the thing that would preclude younger folks from playing, because there's a lot of text on some of those cards.
Yeah, I think that it's a great, I would say, like, entry level to a lot of different mechanics, and the engine building and the deck building and the racing concept. I do think that it's a good pathway. I'm not going to say gateway game, I guess, even though I just did, but I think it's a good pathway to other games that have similar mechanisms. And this is my controversial moment. Wait, why is everybody staring at me?
Because you're talking.
I know what you're going to say, and I'm
you're about
waiting.
You should say, this is my controversial moment.
I don't know how controversial that this statement is, but it was very evocative of Dune Imperium to me. And then when I said that last night, Becky and Angela were shocked. And then I think my point's been proven a little bit.
I wasn't there, but Becky used a different word than evocative.
Did I say it was exactly the same?
I mean, okay, so revisionist history wise, I don't remember, but my takeaway was you said it's basically Dune Imperium.
Okay.
Yes, and then Becky's jaw dropped to the floor. We fought about it for a while. Mm-hmm. I think Becky may have tried to stab you after you said that.
I did go so far.
There is a lot.
I did not stab Reed.
I left before she could. There's a lot that reminds me of Dune Imperium, and Gilliam pointed out that it's the same designer.
Well, I didn't point it out. I think Angela pointed it out last night.
Yeah, I just want to go back to this moment for a second. So Reed's like getting ready to leave and drops this bombshell that she thinks it's basically Revive. Again, that's my
not Revive, Dune Imperium.
Sorry, Dune Imperium.
Revive-ish history.
Yeah, that's so good. And I said, I was like, I'm offended for Dune right now. Like, I just can't even believe this. And Reed's like, no, the cards, they look just like Dune. You're buying things, you're playing your cards. Like, you have a board, you're doing stuff on the board. She said it better than what I'm paraphrasing right now. But I was just like, absolutely not. And then I look over to Angela for support, and she's messing with the expansion box for Catacombs. And there's a piece of paper advertising Dune Imperium on it, and I just lost my mind. Like, are you kidding me right now? Reed is comparing this game to Dune Imperium, and now here it is on a piece of paper right in front of us. And that's when we were reminded that it's by the same person.
Not only the same designer, but the same publishing company. So
I feel like Reed felt like that backed up her claim, which it kind of did.
It completely did. Not kind of. It completely did.
And I was so upset.
That I was right?
Yes!
I don't think you're right. I think there are elements, obviously the same designer, Clank, being before he created Dune. But I don't get the same strategic level, obviously, right? Like, Dune is much more highly strategic. And I think the conclusion that I came to is it involves so much more worker placement in Dune than in Clank, but that the deck building element is similar, and I can see his mechanic crossover in terms of you play cards and there are sword benefits for fighting things, and then you can buy card pieces. And Becky had this really great point after you left Reed, and we were so incensed that you said Clank is basically Dune, that we were like, no, that's not even true. And Becky had made this kind of scaffolding that was, hey, if you play Dominion, that'll have a really great element for when you play Clank. And then if the worker placement element is missing, the next game you might be able to go to is like Viticulture, which includes deck building, worker placement, and strategy. And then that could possibly get you to the level of Dune that's next. And for me, it evoked vibes as I was thinking about it of Quest for El Dorado, which is a much still fun, and I think maybe a little less strategic than Clank, but is basically a race with a deck building element. And so I thought that was a really fascinating track of I don't believe that Clank is Dune, but how do you get from Clank to Dune is a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, and to the point about Dune Imperium, it's just, as Angela said, I think it's just a lot more complex in the nuances and how it's approached, because even the deck building aspect, which is the most shared component between Clank and Dune Imperium, has a lot of nuances in that you don't have to play out all your cards. You all benefit from not playing cards, and that you get swords or you get additional money or buying power that you can then use to buy things. Whereas in Clank, you have to play all your cards and you're enticed to cycle through your deck in that capacity. But yeah, when you said initially, or as I was presented this, Reed had said...
It's very controversial.
Reed said that Clank was evocative of Dune Imperium, and I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then I was met with uproar because apparently Reed had changed the word that she used.
Basically.
Yeah, and so I'd agree that it's evocative of, and it makes sense that it's the same designer, and as they've evolved and gone through these different iterations of Clank, learned things and applied things in different ways. But Dune Imperium is very different in that there is the area control aspect as you put swords on the map or units on the map, and then there's the worker placement component as well. I just think it's a much different game, a lot more strategic than Clank, which is I would say a little more silly fun in that you play things to move along, generate Clank maybe, and then just steal artifacts and run away. I think it's much more lighthearted in that capacity.
And I love that. And I think that they're on the same spectrum or pathway or journey, that, this is something that if you play this game and you want something heavier, I don't think that for me necessarily viticulture is what I would put in between them. But I feel like I would say that a younger player, a newer player could start here, and Dune wouldn't be that many steps up. Like maybe instead of being the next step up, it's 2 steps further on that pathway.
I definitely don't think you're wrong, Reed, but I was so shocked by comparing this silly, funny game to like a political intrigue board game. I was like, how dare you? But it is really cool, like having played all the Clanks and seeing how they've evolved, like you were talking about and Gillian was talking about too, just to see like this designer enjoyed these mechanics and here's how they're implementing it in a different game, which is super fun to see that.
I really like Paul Dennen. If just for me to go on a tangent for a second, he also made Wild Tiled West, which I enjoy as well. And so I think this is one of my favorite designers out there. Now that I've played Clank and Dune and Wild Tiled West, like I will probably pick up anything that Paul Dennen does from now on, just based off of this success record. And I will also say that like the Layers and Lost Chambers expansion that we played with, like I think you could buy Catacombs and be really set. I think it has a lot of different plays every single time that you play it. I think it'll always be a really fun time. I don't think you need the expansion, but if you are interested, it just adds more cards and more tiles. And those tiles can be a little more complicated. So there is you have to check the rule book just a little bit more often. But it adds this nice variability, new cool stuff. And the Catacombs, the whole Clank series, the rule books, for me are really great. They were very straightforward. I appreciate that they created a one sheet of this is what this prisoner does. So it's really easy to just pull it up and say, hey, this is what this is. So I think overall the production from the whole series that I've played, the rule book, this expansion, and I think with all of the expansions, you don't need them, but it's really great. Just an overall well done job.
I think that if you play the game a lot, adding the Catacombs expansion is a great idea. Or if you're a group like us who generally prefer heavier games, I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of that expansion sooner rather than waiting. And I don't think it's one where, like, there are some games where it's just so perfect the way that it is, and the expansion just makes it a little bit too convoluted and it just doesn't add enough. But this one does a really great job. And I appreciate that handy dandy rule book with the things is like a small one. It's not an oversized one that's going to take up a ton of space.
I did not play the expansion, but your PowerPoint presentation on it, Becky, was just tops. That I am excited to play that at some point.
Listen, my next one is going to be about Dune Imperium versus Clank, probably.
That is going to be pretty spicy.
I know, and it's going to have to be like, well, and Reed actually wasn't so wrong.
Well, I just want to go back and say that Wild Tiled West was made by the same designer, because Gillian is shocked.
I had no idea. When you said that, my jaw dropped. I was like, what? And then I logged on to BGG right now and just checked out.
100%.
Yeah.
I didn't think that he would let that pass.
No, honestly, I wasn't checking for that. I believed you in that. But I was going to say, well, it looks like you're now committed to buying Clank Acquisitions Incorporated 2, but that's apparently not designed by Paul Denning.
Oh, wow.
Based on BGG right now.
Oh, and this is something that I'll have to snip and edit while Gillian looks for it, but is the original Clank Legacy done by him?
Yes.
Oh gosh, that backs up my case that I need to get original acquisitions. So while this is a podcast about all things Clank, as Gillian pointed out, we have not played Acquisitions Incorporated, which is the more legacy version. I think we've talked about to play that version. We haven't played all of the expansions for the original Clank either. There's a party mode that allows you to go to 5 to 6 players and incorporates asymmetric powers. There's different pieces that you can buy in other expansions that add to the original base game. So if you really like the original base game, those expansions maybe will help fluff that game up a little bit more for your liking. But if I had a recommendation, I would say Clank Catacombs is the one to go with.
Every day, all day.
Agreed.
Yeah, 100%.
I really am going to look forward to our pod number 2, which is Clank, a PowerPoint adventure. Thank you for listening to Board Game Homies. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a line at our Instagram page at Board Game Homies. See you next time.
I'm definitely just sending a message to our Instagram that's just underscores. So it's a line. Because you say drop us a line.
Oh, yeah.
Gillian.
That's a good one. Where will this one end? I don't know.
It should have ended a while ago.
Future Angela's just like, snip.
I was just
18
thinking
minutes
that.
later.
I feel like we're having such a good discussion, and I'm worried about how much Angela's going to cut. I think it's good, though. So, future Angela, just please. We're fun to hang out with, okay?
Ooh, this pod went way.
No, I thought it was a good conversation, though.
Off the rails.
I was going to say that.
It's our best railroading joke.
That I made.
I can't wait till that presentation comes out. Okay. Oh. So Regicide, great game.
In conclusion, no one will think we're as funny as we think we are.
No, I think you'll be surprised.